Ain't seen the back of my eyelids in the past 48 hours. 48 now, 48 showers, 48 laws of power. Stuffing Dutchess with a double sour. Ain't cuffing bitches, but I'm plucking flowers. Can't fuck with niggas, they a bunch of cowards. I can smell it on them like a superpower. Yo, what's good with you? What's up, y'all? I'll go back to the channel. I'll go back to another episode. You already know who it is. It's Black Lion Priest, Zeus Alchemy, and this bitch, man. So, shit, it's been, what, fucking 3 weeks since the last time I posted a video? Well, shit, I've been trying to figure some shit out, right? So today, I'm doing this video on intuition, overstanding intuition, right? The reason why is because I don't have anything else to go off of. You get to a point, man, where you ain't taking nobody else's advice no more. You don't know what the fuck to do. Shit, listen to me now, right? But it took me a while to get to this point. So, I mean, this whole video is about providing a clear and simple and comprehensive perspective, or a series of perspectives, on the nature of intuition. So, hopefully, you have enough confidence to trust in it, and trust in your fucking self, right? Be your own guru, your own shaman, right? So, how about this? Let me tell you about my intuition, and you know how I kind of started getting into this topic anyway. Because I've been searching far and wide for this shit. I've been studying this shit for damn near my whole life, trying to figure this shit out, right? So, check it out. You know what my intuition tell me what to get a couple weeks ago? My intuition tells me to grab a motherfucking staff. A staff, right? And I'm like, alright, you sure you want me to get a motherfucking staff? Hold on, turn this goddamn music off, because it's just confusing me. So I was listening to myself, and I had this inkling to buy a staff. And I'm a young guy, nigga, living in the goddamn hood. The fuck I look like holding a staff? Let me show you this shit. How about I buy it, right? And my intuition, they just tell me to buy a staff. It said to buy a motherfucking staff with a goddamn crystal in it. And so that's what I did. Didn't know they made staffs like this, but I fucking found one. And not only that, my intuition tell me to get after that. It tells me to buy a wand. Like Harry Potter and shit. Like I'm fucking withered or something. Now I'm trying to figure out what the fuck is really going on. Because, I mean, I'm used to my intuition not making a whole lot of sense. It tends not to. But, this is a little bit absurd, right? So I go on Etsy and look. Motherfucking buy me goddamn staff. It got a goddamn quartz crystal in it. It came with a feather. I took that bitch out. Feather's nasty. Goddamn leather wrapped around this bitch motherfucking moonstone. And I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do with this shit. I'm trying to figure it out. So now I need to really understand what is this whole intuition thing. You know what I'm saying? What's really going on? So, I Google it, right? I fucking Google the definition of intuition. I get two. The first definition I got was the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. And then the second one became attaining direct knowledge or cognition without evident rational thought or inference. And I'm looking at that, and I'm just thinking, what the fuck's that mean? What does that even mean, right? So I deduce, right? I conclude that intuition has to be the perception or the awareness of information beyond logic. Now, I thought that shit would be simple, but it's not, because that's just broad, right? because the awareness of information beyond logic, it could include a nuance of things. It could be impulses, right? The impulse that told me to buy this shit, gut feelings, vibes. And what about dreams, heart's desires? What about instinct, right? You know, like killer instinct, goddamn spidey sense and shit. And feel like somebody's got that murderous intent, like in the animes, or you just fucking feel like somebody's staring at you and you turn around and you lock eyes with a motherfucker. What the hell's that? And then, after even more research, I kept hearing about this fucking voice, this inner voice, this voice of God, right? And then, upon even more inference and thinking, you got this whole channeling and mediumship thing, which, I mean, some would dare call that possession. And I don't know, I guess it depends on perspective, right? So, I'm looking this shit up, and this inner voice thing keeps popping back up. And I don't hear an inner voice, it's just thoughts. So, where the fuck is this shit coming from? And so, what immediately came to my mind was some shit I read in the goddamn Gospel of Hip Hop by KRS-One, right? So, in the beginning of that shit, where he's making the whole introduction about hip hop, the creation of hip hop, and his overall success in the world, he credits it to the obedience of that inner urge or that voice. And so in the beginning of the book, he asked about how and why hip hop, right? Like the idea of hip hop had impacted him and generated so much success for him and so many people like him. And so that question led him down this goddamn rabbit hole that I'm in. And this evidence of unseen forces, right, that we're picking up on, according to him, it seems to love us very deeply. And that voice, that inner urge, that word, right, God's word, that has been historically what has saved many cultures from certain death and has instructed and guided them to victory. And so I'm like, all right, guidance, right? And so when you look into the story of KRS-One even further, you don't know who the fuck that is. He's a hip hop artist, but he, back in the day, you don't know, you Google this shit. But nowadays, this nigga be lecturing, right? And so, that voice that we're talking about, and for him, he said this shit told him to leave home and drop out of high school at the age of 16. Same voice is what told him to recite the poetry that became the goddamn hip hop, his goddamn songs. That same voice instructed him to battle. I don't know if he was battle rapping, but that's what the fuck he said. And it also inspired him to start the goddamn Stop the Violence movement in 1989. Then the goddamn Human Education Against Lies in 1991, and then the goddamn Temple of Hip Hop in 1996. Now this same nigga that dropped out of goddamn high school at the age of 16, listening to this fucking voice, this inner urge, later on begins to lecture at Yale, Harvard, and Oxford University. And then he goes to say that that voice has taught him things that he has never read or heard, but only to substantiate such knowings later in life. I'm like, okay, alright, we're getting somewhere here. Now, these voices, inner urges, right? For him, he says that they're accompanied by coincidences, miracles, and natural events that line up with the intent of that urge. Now, I've heard that shit before. That's fucking Carl Jung, nigga. That's goddamn synchronicity or serendipity, right? Which is the essence of what it means to really be in alignment, because it's things are lining up in your favor, or they're lining up with the intent, or the inkling, or the thought, the word, the urge, right? So, alright, what's this whole higher power thing, right? Because now he says the simple answer to this shit is that inner voice, right? That intuition, it's God, it's source, it's a lie. Now, all of these words are dope, universe, cosmos, whatever, right? But, I think about God, I like to think about it like, what, GOD? It's um, good ciphers with the disagreeable, or a generator, organizer, and dispenser of this energy. Right? This is what I think about. So, I mean, even still, even when you look at what the fuck he said, the shit didn't make any sense when he did it. And it's just like with me, right? It doesn't make sense the moment I get the inkling. Same with you, sure. It doesn't make sense when you get the inkling. And it brings me back to that definition where, again, this shit is beyond logic. It doesn't make sense, or it doesn't have to make sense to you. And so that reminds me of the whole goddamn, what's that proverb? This is 3, 5. I fucking know how you do it, but that whole shit about fucking trusting God and not leaning on to your own understanding. So it's this idea of, taking a leap of faith. Right? But even when he's talking about this shit, it sounds more like it's a goddamn guidance system. Or right, because it's sending them shit. Even later on, when he's talking about how he received, all of this instruction, it was almost as if it's something bigger than you. You're stronger, smarter, faster, calmer, and it's trying to communicate with you. And so this communication thing is now what's piquing my interest, right? So I do some more research, and across my studies, I come across this fucking book called The Handbook of the Navigator, right? And, like I already said, intuition's got to be a goddamn guidance system of some sort. And so with the Handbook of the Navigator, comes up with this metaphor for the spiritual journey in the form of the salmon's journey. So get this shit, right? A salmon, motherfuckers that swim upstream, it tastes really fucking delicious. Some people, I don't fuck with salmon, but that's what niggas say. Salmon is born far from the ocean in freshwater streams. As an egg, in the egg, it travels down into the sea to reach maturity there, only to journey back to its hatching ground for sex, to mate, right? And to fucking die. And that's what they swimming upstream for. Death and pussy. That's some shit. Look at God, right? And so, whole time though, imagine you're this salmon, and you're born in this stream, and the first memory that you have would not be of that freshwater stream because you was a fucking egg. You would literally only know the sea. That's all you know. Fucking bikini bottom in this bitch. And so, once you reach maturity here, you got enough, I don't know, awareness to contemplate what the fuck is going on. You question, you get on your goddamn Aaron Yeager, attack on Titan shit, and you think it's something more to this big ass ocean. And so then that feeling, right, that impulse is what propels me forward. In storytelling, that's a call to action, right, in the hero journey. And you follow that shit, you take this leap of faith, and the whole journey is about you finding the exact same river that you were born in. How fucking crazy is that? You think about it, right? And so the way that the story goes in the Handbook of the Navigator even further is that you think about your first encounter with threats, right? You go on this journey, you're trying to trust this shit, and you encounter a bear, right? First time the bear gets you in your claws, you panicking, you Magikarp flailing and shit. And something in you goes, be still. And that shit sounds like the worst advice. So you second guessing it. You struggle. You get cut up, all this other shit. Everything you try to do as a goddamn salmon fails. And so then finally, on some goddamn Fight Club shit, you let go of the steering wheel and you still, and you slip out the goddamn grasp of the bear. Listening to your fucking fish instincts. And then let's say you fuck around and you do find a river, because you're bound to find a stream of some sort eventually, right? And you find it, and it's not quite what the fuck you looking for, but it's very similar, it's very familiar, and so this is akin to a goddamn comfort zone. You fucking stick there, you stay there, and eventually something in you, that intuition, drives you or propels you to continue on with the quest. When I'm thinking about this shit, right? And my mind goes, if the goddamn destination is a fucking freshwater stream, and specifically the same one that you got, that you was born in, and you've been in a goddamn sea, it sounds like it's a lot more about the goddamn destination. I mean, it sounds like rather it's more about the journey than the goddamn destination. So, you know, after breaking this down, it goes into the concept of how it explains intuition being what it calls the navigator. Right? Now, the navigator, according to the author of the goddamn book is called Eric Pepin. Right? And what's interesting about this book is I think it came out in like 2011, but you know, when it came out, or maybe it came out in 2001. When it came out a little bit before the goddamn Matrix movie. But when the Matrix movie came out, for the few people that had read this movie, they was like, yo, all of this shit in the Matrix is in this fucking book. And this nigga was talking about the shit. So I got wind of it, and I'm looking into it. So with this whole navigator shit, it's like it's a compass or a GPS system to kind of help you navigate through this. And the way I think about that, it kind of sounds like a similar system with like a goddamn plain GPS. So, I mean, I know it's goddamn 2021 right now, but there was a point in time where airplanes were seldomly on course, right? They had a goddamn regular pilot or automatic piloting to be always checking and correcting the course. And then if you could look at the goddamn trajectory of a plane back in the day, I'm mad, goddamn neighbors, always doing dumb shit. If you could look at the goddamn trajectory of that shit, it would look like a zigzag, right? And the plane is almost always flying in the wrong direction, yet because of constant observation and course correction, it always arrives at the right place. And so, the navigator, or that inner voice, that inner urging, is the means or the vehicle by which to communicate to you, right? Now this was important for me to distinguish because doing so much research, I started thinking that goddamn intuition, you know what I'm saying, was the higher self. Intuition was, you know, in psychology, intuition could be like the goddamn superego, right? Because you have the superego, you got the ego, and then you have the id. Right? And the id is your basic nature. The ego is you and how you operate. And then the superego is that, like, cosmic knowledge. Right? So, in the case with the Handbook of the Navigator, you have that navigational system, right? That's almost as if it's trying to guide you, just like with the Salmon's Journey, trying to guide you back to the source. But we live in a goddamn state of duality. So, in the Handbook of the Navigator, you have the navigator, and then you also have this concept that would be akin to psychology and the ego called the goddamn governor. And the governor is that part, right? You could dare say it's a reptilian part in the brain, but it's that part of man that filters out all the information. And it has a job where it's not necessarily um, malevolent, but it has a job of keeping things copacetic, of keeping things similar, because you live in a goddamn place where everything is changing. So that's the part of you that that wants to keep stuff that, you know what I'm saying, the same. That's the part of resistance that we all deal with. That's the second guessing, right? And so this whole navigating thing, and you think about God again, an acronym for that, good ciphers with the disagreeable, because we live in duality. It's almost like goddamn quantum physics, where it suggests that the entire universe is essentially composed of mental energy vibrating at different frequencies, right? And within this great unified field of infinite possibilities, any thought, any urge, any desire that we could have, it's not as if it's uniquely ours. These things are sent to us. We are receiving them. And so the intuition becomes the apparatus or the medium or the vehicle by which everything here is communicating with you. Or in other words, the medium by which cosmic intelligence, divine force, is trying to communicate with you. Right? Now, shit that kind of helped me wrap my head around this shit even further was this goddamn book I found called Telepathy, right? Telepathy in Cosmic or Universal Language. It's a 3-part series, and it's written by this dude named George Adamski. Now, this goddamn material came out in fucking 1958, right? And the guy that wrote it, George Adamski, I didn't know anything about this guy, but in his time, he was one of those people that was known as a UFOist, a UFOologist. He's one of them guys that, you know what I'm saying, he was really pushing the whole alien agenda. He was like with David Icke and goddamn Dolores Cannon and, you know, that whole movement, right? But within cosmic or universal language, it starts to break this down as if your intuition is the unconscious tuning into these cosmic forces or energies, right? And so what essentially becomes, what starts to happen is we're receiving impressions, thoughts, feelings, and emotions from everything around us, from all the people around us, from things that we can see and things that we can't see. You know, even in this shit, it talks about how all thought registers as a vibration in space. So these are the vibrations that we're picking up on, those instincts that we're picking up on, those dreams, those desires. It's almost as if that stuff is imprinted or put into us. And then when I was fucking looking into what the fuck was intuition, like just looking at shit on YouTube, a lot of the videos that pop up talk about this idea of information, digestible information. So this is stuff that is just permeating within your DNA, permeating within, again, the people around you, all of this shit. But at the end of it all, it's all thoughts, right? And even when you think about thought, I found another motherfucking book that speaks about thought, and that thought being God's word. So even when you think about, you know, like the Bible, you know, John 1, it states that whole in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And so, in this instance, in accordance with this material on telepathy and cosmic intelligence, intuition is the communication or the receiving of that thought energy. Now, the difference between a thought and a feeling and an emotion is just layers. A feeling is the awareness of a sensation. And the awareness of sensation would be generated from what? Fucking thought. And emotion is nothing more than a lot of thought, focus and attention within that thought. That's all that it is. Even when you think about man and you think about woman, you think about anything here that breathes like we do, they're all expressions of divine thought. This is why everything here is all about expressing, which is why the one of the closest way you could ever be to the divine is through art or creating. So, in a sense, that navigator, that intuition, is the vehicle in the relationship by which these unseen forces are communicating with you. And with all of that being said, it's not gonna make no fucking sense, but it don't have to. And the reason why is because it's all about the experience. Fucking learn something. And so, like, I hope that shit helps out. God damn it. Because let me tell you, I've been trying to do this shit for like 3 weeks. And this shit was more of a headache than it was worth. But I get it, though. I get that, you know what I'm saying, that this is what's going on. And it's important to talk about this because, you know, even when you think about this whole like new world idea that we're living in. I mean, the reality of it is that people are becoming more and more and more sensitive to subtle energies and vibrations all the time. Man, it's a little bit every day. And I know that this shit's a fucking thing because like I've experienced telepathy before. I've experienced talking to a motherfucker without talking to a motherfucker. Now I was off a goddamn tab, but I've experienced that. And I've also experienced the receiving of information. It's what they fucking call a download, right? When people talk about, oh, I got a download. Hey, because you just got communicated to. Somebody just sent you something. And who and what sent that is here to get you back on course. And so the more you listen to it, the more clear it gets, the louder it gets. It's what becomes the voice. And then through further obedience to it, you develop those abilities of channeling and mediumship. Even if you don't want to get that fucking spiritual with it, intuition also has to play a role in expertise, and it would go again into that digestible information. So, I mean, hey, man, I hope with all that I have covered and provided for you, it'll give you some fucking help. And some of the books I found on this shit, man, goddamn Hidden Self by Nazia Ra, and Google that shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm not putting no links into nothing. Telepathy, the Cosmic Universal Language, I found this shit. You can find it on Amazon. Gospel of Hip Hop, Handbook of the Navigator. If you do look through any book, go through the goddamn Handbook of the Navigator. There's an earlier version of that. You can search it and you can download a PDF version of that shit right now. And so, you know, bottom line, man, trust your fucking self, because those dreams, those desires, you know what I'm shit, you know, like KRS said, you know what I'm saying, those are the covenant. That's God's promise to you, right? And it's provided to you with the intention that you do what's necessary to pull that experience to you. And if you don't obey, you'll fuck around and watch somebody else live the same dream you had your whole heart on. So, um, don't keep stepping on your own toes, Shell. Alright. I'm out, man.